This is everything I've learned in the last 3 years of hybrid training. I went from a bodybuilding type lifter to a very endurance-based athlete the last 3 years, and this is everything I wish I knew before getting started. I've done a 100-mile ultra marathon, a sub 3-hour marathon, and I just did a sub 10-hour Ironman for my first ever Ironman. So we're gonna hit some back and biceps while I share all these tips. Let's go. All right, first lift on this back day, barbell bent over rows. We're gonna do 2 sets of 10 for our warm-up sets, and then we're going into 3 sets of 5. Going fairly heavy on the rows to start this off. All right, so going into my background, where I kind of fell in love with fitness was sports early on in life. So throughout high school, I was a wrestler. I was really small, like right now I'm like 180 to 185 pounds. Freshman year, I was 93 pounds. Freshman and sophomore year, I wrestled 103 and 106, and I graduated at the 138 weight class. So I was always pretty small. And then after that, I really fell in love with weightlifting and wanting to put on muscle and just get bigger and stronger. So for about 8 years, that's all I did. I lifted, I put on a good amount of muscle, and I really didn't do any endurance. And then I just started falling in love with endurance. So I ran my first half marathon. Then I thought, can I do a full marathon? I did that. Then I got invited to go run the Leadville 100. And I did that. I finished in 29 hours and 33 minutes. So I barely made it, but I made it. And then I was like, can I run a sub 3-hour marathon? I ran Chicago, ran 2:56. Then I was like, maybe should I try triathlon? So all of last year I did Olympic distance triathlon, a sprint, a half Ironman, and a full Ironman. And my goal was to go sub 10, and we went 9:46. So, I've really shifted from just wanting to put on muscle and get bigger to become a better endurance athlete. And that is just what I'm going to share here is what I really learned over that process and how to kind of balance both really well, and how it's also very, very hard to balance, and it's really all about priority. All right, second workout, pull-ups. 1 set of 12 for the warm-up, and then we're gonna strap with the belt and do some weighted pull-ups, 3 sets of 8. So if you don't want to do pull-ups, you can also do lat pull-downs on the cable machine. But out here on the balcony, we're gonna pull-ups. Second main tip, I would say you really do have to think about priority and seasonality within your hybrid training, because if you're chasing everything, you're ultimately not chasing anything. You're just not going to get better at anything. Like during my Ironman training, I kept trying to do heavy bench press and curls and all this kind of stuff. My coach was like, dude, you're actually hurting this goal. Like, what are you actually trying to do this year? Are you trying to become a sub 10-hour Ironman, or are you trying to put on muscle? So you really have to prioritize the things in that season to really achieve that goal. And then you can always come back and put the size back on, put that strength back on. Because if you're trying to do both, you're just not going to get anywhere in either one. I wasn't getting stronger, but for a while I wasn't getting faster because I was trying to hold on to both. So I dropped the weights, I started lifting a lot less, and I really started focusing on getting faster, and that ultimately allowed me to get faster. So really think about that seasonality mindset, and ultimately allows you to be present within one thing and really enjoy that one thing and enjoy the progress of one thing, rather than just basically just getting nowhere. Like for example, I lost like 10 to 15 pounds during this last year of Ironman prep. And if you look at some of the other guys that really do this well as well, like, some of my buddies, Luke Hopkins, Nathan French, Nick Bear, they all lost a little bit of size. They were all in that seasonality mindset. If you look at Truett Haynes, he's now trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. He's lost a lot of size. I think he's lost like 25 pounds so far, and he's going to have to lose probably another 10 pounds to really get his marathon time down to the 2:15 mark, where he's already insanely fast at a 2:30 marathon. But even he knows, I'm done doing a bunch of pull-ups. I'm done doing heavy curls. I'm done doing all this stuff because it's just going to hurt me and hold me back from this ultimate goal of qualifying for the Olympic trials. So right now, as you can see, I'm back to enjoying lifting. I'm back to trying to put some muscle back on. And this is what my priority is right now. And I've kind of lowered my volume on running. And this is what is making me happy at the moment, this new goal of putting the size back on. So, know what your goal is and really dive into that. Doesn't mean you actually have to completely stop one thing, but you definitely have to prioritize the other thing. All right, next lift, we're doing a tripod row. So single arm dumbbell row, 2 sets of 8, and then 2 sets of failure. And the failure, really going to failure. Half reps, quarter reps, to where you could barely move that dumbbell. All right, also when it comes to endurance feats, they are obviously super physically demanding, but they're also very mentally demanding. And I noticed this a lot in my Ironman prep. Obviously marathon prep, ultra marathon prep was a lot time-wise, but the Ironman was like to a next level in my opinion. I was doing 20 plus hour weeks of training, and it just kind of wore on me. Like I was honestly hating training towards the end, and it just made me really seek some more rest days. So finding something that could really take your mind off of training. Lifting doesn't really do that to you because it's usually like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. When you're doing Ironman prep, sometimes you're working out 4, 5, 6 hours in a day. So really take the time for yourself mentally in those endurance blocks to disconnect. I like to get on the boat, whatever, go on walks, do anything outside of training, and really just try to give yourself clarity and time to just kind of disconnect and recover. Hop in the sauna, cold plunges, whatever. You can do some yoga, stretching, things that are just gonna really allow yourself to recover mentally as well as physically. So it's so important in those very, very demanding endurance blocks. Next workout, barbell bicep curls. We're doing 1 set of 10 and then 2 sets of 8. And then we're gonna go into hammer curls after. Another tip on the endurance side of things, I find a lot of value doing some of my endurance in a controlled environment. For example, my bike workouts on the trainer, my run workouts on my treadmill. If you don't have your own treadmill, just get a gym membership. Every gym basically has a treadmill. It's so nice to do your workouts in a controlled environment, and it just makes training that much easier, especially when it's too hot here in Florida in the summer, or for those guys and girls that live up north in the snow, sometimes it's just really hard to run outside. So having the means to run and work out inside in a controlled environment helps out so much. Quick break for the sponsor of this video, the Nordic Track X24. As I was saying, I've done a lot of training on the treadmill, and the top 4 reasons why I love training on the treadmill is 1, precise pacing, reduce impact, environmental control, and you just never have to pause for your workouts. For example, on this part of the iFit Pro membership, you could do a custom workout program. So I would just do that. I could build out exactly what paces, what speed, how much time, what incline or decline I want, and it would do it all by itself without me having to press any buttons. Reduce impact. I do, beat up myself a lot, by just running a lot of high mileage. So running on this has a little bit of a cushion technology and reduces that impact. And then also in terms of, environmental control, putting the air on, putting a fan on, having your fueling, your hydration all right here for you, so you don't ever run out of water. It makes it super, super easy. And then there's no traffic at all ever. So you don't ever have to stop at a stoplight or cars or, people or anything like that. You just set the speed that you want to run at and you just go. So, I absolutely love this treadmill. It's super durable. Like I said, nice cushion technology, huge screen, so many cool features with the iFit app. And if you want to check it out, I have the link in the description, and I really cannot recommend it enough. The Nordic Track X24. All right, next tip, fueling for your goals. So obviously endurance wise, you're gonna be maybe taking in a lot more carbs, maybe a little less protein, and then strength wise, more protein, less carbs. Like you need the carbs and the electrolytes and all that to fuel and hydrate your endurance efforts. And you need higher protein, higher calorie to get bigger, put on weight, get more muscle. So, you know, probably if you're doing an endurance effort and you want to get a little bit faster, you have to get a little bit smaller. You have to lose a little bit of size and strength, as we've talked about before, to get faster. So you're probably going to have to stay in a little bit of a calorie deficit. Now, through endurance, you're going to be obviously burning a lot more calories. So maybe you could eat around the same things, but you're going to be in the calorie deficit because you're just burning more. And like I said, you're going to need carbs throughout your workouts, prior to your workouts, to fuel those efforts. So right now, I am trying to stay in a calorie surplus, eat more food, and do about 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. So I'm like 182. I'd like to get right back up to like about 190. So I'm taking 190 grams of protein and trying to take in around 3,500 calories per day, maybe more if I can, to stay in that calorie surplus. When I was in my Ironman prep, I was probably around 3,000-ish calories, maybe 3,500, but I was burning a lot more and I wasn't focusing so much on protein. I was still obviously taking in protein, but I was more so focused on the carb intake for my workouts. That makes sense. So fuel for your specific goals. All right, this is how I finish pretty much every single pull day. A circuit, 2 ab exercises, and 1 back exercise, always pull-ups. So I'll do pull-ups to failure, sit-ups and hang leg raises, always 1 upper ab, 1 lower ab at the end of every lift, and then pull-ups. Usually 3 to 4 rounds of this. And then closing statements, basically, on this. This is all kind of common sense information, maybe, like fuel for your goals. You're gonna have to prioritize one thing over the other. There's only so many hours in a day. So even when it comes to the really, really good runners, people that ran out of high school, ran out of college, and now you're trying to put on muscle, you're going to have to get slower to get bigger and stronger, because you can't put all those hours and all that time into continuing to become a better runner. Now your priority is going to be getting bigger and stronger. So you're ultimately going to get a little bit slower, because the bigger you are, basically the slower you are. So you need to, you know, prioritize your goals. And then what was the other thing? Oh, and then you need to give yourself a mental break. Endurance can be very hard. Any sort of physical goal can also be very hard on the mental. So really try to take breaks and rest and do things outside of fitness that kind of take your mind off of things. But I'm hoping all these tips will help you guys. This is stuff that I tried to fight for a very long time. I tried to hold on to muscle and size while I tried to get better at endurance. And ultimately I just ended up going nowhere. And once I gave that up, once I realized these things are seasons, and really dive into the endurance or dive into the strength, that's the only way you're gonna get better at one or the other. So I really hope this helped out. If you watched this far, thanks so much. And yeah, all the links down below help out. Check out the Nordic Track X24 if you want to check out a really nice treadmill for your home. And we'll appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.